Welcome back to the Mid-Year YouTube channel. In today's episode, the Overkill 67 Corvette is back in the shop, but this time it's under new ownership, and I have some changes to make to the car before I send it off to its new home. I'm also going to answer some questions that you guys have about this car and why it's leaving, so be sure to stick around. If you're wondering why I'm getting rid of this, I'm going to make a little Q&A section at the end of this, so be sure to stick around for that, where I hope to answer a lot of the questions you guys have that I see in the comments all the time. So I have Overkill back in the shop for some more work. And before we take this thing apart, I want to throw it on the scales to see what this thing weighs. But Overkill is going to a new home, which is not far from here. But part of the deal is it's going as a glider. So I have to pull out the engine and transmission and some other associated parts that he won't need for that conversion. So I'm going to start taking this thing apart. And then I'm also going to put on some stock quarter panels. So this thing looked like it sat kind of high in the back. And that's because these quarter panels are flared. So we're going to put stock quarters, which will bring the body line down here, and it'll make the car look a lot lower and it'll make it look a lot better. So the engine and transmission are out of Overkill, and the shop's a little bit of a mess. I got some cleaning up to do. So you're probably wondering why I'm tearing Overkill apart. I just worked so hard to finish it. Well, I ended up selling it to another gentleman, and he did not want the engine and transmission out of it. So I have the engine sitting over here, which may end up in the Camaro. The transmission's over here. A friend may end up buying that, or I may put that in my 60 Corvette build that'll be down the road. In the past, you've seen I've built cars and they've moved on to other homes and you haven't seen updates. That's because the owner really didn't want that. But in this case, the owner is right there. So the car is going from here to there. So there will be updates on this. It's going to a guy that really enjoys classic cars. He's been after me to build him a car basically since he moved in across the street, and it's finally happening. And his buddy has worked on a ton of Corvettes, so it's going to be in good hands. And you guys are going to be pretty excited about it. No, I really like the chassis. As you can see, I have their flag proudly hung on the wall and I have their merchandise on. I really like the Roadster shop product, and I plan on ordering at least 1 to 2 more chassis, and I have about 3 or 4 more cars in the queue that are going to get Roadster shop chassis. So you're going to see plenty of those chassis, top-notch quality, really like what they do, and you're going to see plenty of those coming up in the future. But the engine and the chassis combination didn't work perfectly because the chassis is touring and the engine's more race, so they didn't mesh perfectly for what I wanted the car to be. So instead of tearing the whole car apart and redoing it, I just decided to let it go and then build something else fresh. I don't send any of my cars out to get paint because I already have a perfectly restored 63 split window. A lot of you guys think that all these cars should be painted perfectly, which that's a fine opinion to have, but I like to build cars quick because they're on basically a TV time frame. It takes so long to make videos and YouTube really doesn't pay all that much, so I would be funding it all out of pocket. It's a lot easier to build a car in patina and fund it out of your own pocket than it is to find somebody to paint it and redo it. Now, in the future, I have a couple builds coming that I will paint, but I am not a painter myself, so I don't paint cars on my own. Unfortunately, as much as I love the patina is not going to stay. As far as I know, he wants to do a silver with a red interior, which this thing's going to look absolutely insane. But part of the deal is I have to get rid of these quarter panels. So that'll be in the next video. But you can see these are radius quarter panels, which a lot of people asked about the ride height back here. What's up with that? Well, part of the reason is it's not, there's not the full weight back here. Also, these tires are really worn, but also these wheel wells are flared or radiused. So the body line should come through here. So as soon as I change these quarters, this car is going to look a lot wider and it's going to look a lot lower. But unfortunately, the patina is hitting the road, and I'm going to have to dig out this seam and put on a brand new set of Vet Masters quarter panels. Love the quarter panels. It's just sad that I got to take these ones off. I didn't think I was going to have to touch these quarters, but it's under new ownership now. I think a lot of people want to see something from the beginning to the end, but I've kind of found a little niche for myself where I specialize in putting together project cars. So I take stuff that is in a junkyard, that's stuff that people really don't see a lot of hope in. A lot of people do fix these cars, but there are still hundreds out there that can be fixed. And I like to make them into project cars like you see with the Centerfield 65 or Overkill. And then there's a lot higher percentage of people that can take a car like this and make it into either a restored car, resto mod, or whatever. But there's a lot higher percentage of people that can fix them from this stage rather than that stage. Whenever I sold the car, my neighbor wanted to buy it as a glider, so without the engine and transmission and some other components. He wants to put in an LSA or some supercharged LS engine with a 6-speed transmission. So it has a 500 horsepower 327 and a 5-speed in it. So he wants to upgrade that. He's continuing with the theme of Overkill, and he even found a license plate with Overkill spelling. The main reason I wanted to sell Overkill is to support other projects I have going on in the boneyard, but the car isn't exactly what I wanted it to be in terms of drivability. So I like the side pipes, I like the 500 horsepower engine, and the chassis performs well, but you put all those together, it wasn't quite what I wanted. So to redo this car, I would want to put an LS in it, probably either 5 or 6 speed, and most likely put back exhaust on it, just so it's a lot more quiet and refined. It was just a little too race for what I wanted to do. So instead of tearing it all apart and redoing the car from the ground up, I decided let's let somebody else take this project and run with it, who's really fired up about it, and let's go a completely different direction. So we're going to go with the 60 Corvette on a Roadster shop chassis. It'll just be a whole new build, and then we can let this one live a new life with somebody else. I hope you guys enjoyed the Overkill series. We just have to put quarter panels on this thing, and then it's heading down the road. But I want to take a second to point out that I bought both of these cars around the same time, and about a year and a half ago, and it's cool to see them at a very similar stage. Now, Centerfield's almost passing up Overkill. Once I get the nose on it, they'll basically be at the same point. But I like putting cars together, getting them to a project car state, and letting them go down the road, because it's just a lot easier for me. So as much as I like the Overkill project, it's time to let this one go. I learned a lot about building a car on a Pro Touring chassis. I'm really excited to work with the Roadster shop in the future. I think they're really happy with the videos I've been putting out on this car, and I have plenty more coming. So I hope this gives you guys some inspiration to show that you can tackle this in your own garage. So as much as I'd love to say that I am being 100% sponsored by the Roadster shop, I am not. I bought this chassis with my own money, even though they gave me some nice merch. I had to buy the chassis with my own money, so I'm not obligated to say anything good about it. I just really like the product. I'm an engineer by trade, and I thought this was a really well-engineered product, and they had really good tech support, and it drives phenomenal. So anybody can do this in their own garage if they put their mind to it. You have some mechanical ability, and if you need to sub some stuff out, talk to the Roadster shop. They can probably hook you up with someone to put the floor in for you and get the body set on. Once you're up to that point, you're basically off to the races, and that's why my neighbor was so intrigued in getting this car, because this is a ready-to-rip product, and he'll be able to put his engine transmission in there, get it painted, interior, wiring, some air conditioning. He'll have a nice resto mod that's going to turn some heads. And also, he's got to get some new shoes for this thing too. So that's it for Overkill. We're going to put the quarter panels on this, and this thing, the next time you see it, it's going to look a whole lot different. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Next, you'll see I'll put new quarter panels on this car. Maybe we'll do one more walk around it, and then we'll officially send it off. And don't forget, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the car coming up in the future, because you will see more updates on this car in the future. It just may take a little while. So I got a lot of work to do, and I'll catch you guys later. But these are a pretty cool pair of Corvettes that probably nobody would have ever really fixed. I mean, they would have used them for parts maybe, but it's cool to see these two come together, and they'll both be on the road pretty soon.